welcome to another episode of Bhagavatam Bites. We're here at Matchless Gifts.
Yes.
And we're reading from the Bhagavatam, believe it or not. Here we are. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. I know you don't want to move at all, but...
I'm immobile, immovable. Canto 4, Chapter 22, Text 11.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 11. On the contrary, even though full of all opulence and material prosperity, any householder's house where the devotees of the Lord are never allowed to come in, and where there is no water for washing their feet, is to be considered a tree in which all venomous serpents live. That's quite harsh. But anyway, a purport. In this verse, the word Tirthopadhyaya indicates devotees of Lord Vishnu or Vaishnavas. As far as Brahmanas are concerned, in the previous verse, the mode of reception has been already described. Now in this verse, special stress is being given to the Vaishnavas. Generally, the sannyasis, or those in the renounced order of life, take trouble to enlighten the householders. There are Ekadandi sannyasis and Tridandi sannyasis. The Ekadandi sannyasis are generally followers of Sankaracharya and are known as Mayavadi sannyasis, whereas the Tridandi sannyasis are followers of Vaishnavacharyas, Ramanujacharya, Madhavacharya, and so on, and they take trouble to enlighten the householders. Ekadandi sannyasis can be situated on the platform of pure Brahman because they are aware that the spirit soul is different from the body, but they are mainly impersonalists. The Vaishnavas know that the Absolute Truth is the Supreme Person and that the Brahman effulgence is based on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text 27. Brahmano he pratishtaham. Brahmano he pratishtaham. The conclusion is that Tirthopadhyaya refers to Vaishnavas. In the Bhagavatam, there is also another reference, Tirti Kurvanti Tirtani. Wherever he goes, a Vaishnava immediately makes that place a Tirtha, a place of pilgrimage. The Vaishnava sannyasis travel all over the world to make every place a place of pilgrimage by the touch of their lotus feet. It is mentioned here that any house which does not receive a Vaishnava in the manner already explained in the previous verse is to be considered the residential quarters of venomous serpents. It is said that around the sandalwood tree, which is a very valuable tree, there is a venomous serpent. Sandalwood is very cold, and venomous serpents, because of their poisonous teeth, are always very warm, and they take shelter of the sandalwood trees to become cooler. Similarly, there are many rich men who keep watchdogs or doormen and put up signs that say, "Do not enter, trespassers not allowed, beware of the dog," etc.
Well, he continues, your read. It's only, you read most of it, then you leave me to my much.
Well, that's how it's, I didn't edit these books, so...
No, that's not a new paragraph.
It is, isn't it?
It's not. No,
it's not. I stand corrected.
Well, can you believe that, ladies and gentlemen?
Right, I shall continue. Sometimes in Western countries, a trespasser is shot. And there is no crime in such shooting. That's true. This is the position of demoniac householders. Such houses are considered to be the residential quarters of venomous snakes. The members of such families are no better than snakes, because snakes are very much envious, and when that envy is directed to the saintly persons, their position becomes more dangerous. It is said by Chanakya Pandit that there are two envious living entities, the snake and the envious man. The envious man is more dangerous than a snake because a snake can be subdued by charming mantras or by some herbs, but an envious person cannot be pacified by any means. Oh, dear God. Whoa, what can you say? It's quite heavy, isn't it, on the fact that if you don't welcome like Vaishnavas, devotees to your house. Now this is a conundrum really. We don't want to open it up because I ain't got time, but I'll just briefly mention it. Anyway, what do you do? It's a serious question because they're saying, you know, because as Prabhupada says in this purport, he's moved on from general people and whatnot.
Moved on to general people from Vaishnavas, you mean?
Oh, I thought he moved on.
To general people.
I thought he moved on to Vaishnavas.
When?
Just now.
Okay, maybe finish your conversation.
Yeah, that would help, innit? So, it's one thing not to open the door when there's like the Avon lady or Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever, and then you move on and then it's like Prabhupada saying, you know, devotees, Vaishnavas, like, they don't mean any harm, you know, unless they're book distributing, then you don't want to, you have to be careful. But what do you do if you're a practicing devotee and another devotee comes and you got some dispute and you don't get on with them or whatever? So you are like, I don't want them coming in my house, and then you don't let them in. And then, do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a householder who's just, oh, what's those religious people? Don't let them in. I don't want those Harry Butters coming in. Do you understand? There's a difference, surely, to that. To
someone who's an actual devotee and doesn't want devotees coming in their house. Yes, sounds like there's a world of difference, in fact. Yes. Sounds like the most poisonous kind of snakes.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't. Because even, I mean, I'm listening to the Mahabharata audiobook, just mentioning it again.
By Krishna Dharma.
Yeah, it's Krishna Dharma Prabhu's Mahabharata, but someone else is reading it. But, yeah, it's interesting, you know, recently was the part where Bhishma Dev, being, you know, under provocation from Duryodhan, basically took 5 arrows and he meditated intensely on them and invested them with his full Shakti, and he declared that tomorrow these 5 arrows will kill the 5 Pandavas. And Duryodhan was like, yes, because he like fired him up basically by, you know, crying and saying, oh, you always look after them, you're sworn to, you know, help me, and da-da-da-da, and this and that. So Bhishma get all fired up. Then Duryodhan said, I'll keep the arrows, just to make sure. So he kept them. So Krishna said to Arjuna, you know, because they were all worried, and they had gotten word that basically Bhishma Dev had done this. And Krishna said, okay, so Arjuna, it's time for you to go to visit Duryodhan. And he's like, what? And he's like, because remember when you saved him from the Gandharvas, he promised that he would reciprocate with you. So it's like, okay. Now, this is the middle of the Kurukshetra war, right? This is the middle of the battle. Sworn enemies, Duryodhan and Arjuna. So Arjuna goes to the tent of, Duryodhan. And Duryodhan's like, welcomes him in, seats him nicely, serves him something, gives him a drink, you know, arranges for a nice seat, gives him some food. And, you know, and then kind of has some chat. So how can I help you? And, have you come, makes a joke. Have you come to, beg for peace and surrender? And he says, no, I came to ask you for the 5 arrows that you have, because you promised me that you would do something for me after I saved you from the Gandharvas. And Duryodhana was so embarrassed because he had to be saved by Arjuna. But because he had made that promise, he gave him the 5 arrows. And, it's interesting because first he let him in the tent. And what you're saying is, you have a minor dispute with some devotee and you won't let them come in your house. But here, Arjuna...
That was hypothetical, by the way.
Okay, so hypothetically, a friend of ours somewhere, hypothetically. But the point here is that Arjuna and Duryodhana are like, cousin brothers, but they're in the middle of a war where thousands and millions of people are getting killed and being drawn into their fratricidal war, and he lets him into his tent, and vice versa. So, it says that someone who is cultured will even, won't even refuse their enemy to come into their house and will still treat them properly. So, so I think that's the answer.
And can we also say how tricky Krishna is, how naughty that is?
How naughty? Well, Krishna is the protector of his devotees, so, he swore he wouldn't fight, although now I've heard there were 2 places where he fought. One was with Bhishma Dev himself, because Bhishma Dev, that next day he said, okay, so I don't have the arrows now, and he was happy, he was happy because Krishna took, he knew what Krishna arranged. He said basically, Krishna's going to protect them, but I'm going to force his hand. Either he is going to save Arjuna or I'm going to kill Arjuna.
Yeah.
And then in order to save Arjuna, Krishna picked up a chariot wheel and was about to hurl it, and then the sun went down, and so he didn't do it. But they were saying, oh, you broke your promise, which, anyway, doesn't, in one sense you could say doesn't matter. But for Kshatriyas it does, because he gave his word. But he says, no, I swore I wouldn't pick up a weapon. I didn't pick up a weapon, I picked up a wagon wheel. And it's like, okay.
There he goes again.
But then there's another one. I just heard there's a warrior named Bhagadatta on Duryodhana's side, on the Kuru's side, and he rides this amazing horse. And he was somehow in Narakasura somehow was gifted some weapon that was passed down to him that was called the Vaishnav Astra, the Vaishnav Astra. And Bhagadatta was really trying to kill Arjuna, and he was, it just wasn't happening, and they were fighting, and then he launched this Vaishnav Astra, which was like, that was it. It was going to wipe almost everybody out. And it was flying towards Arjuna, and Krishna just stood up in the chariot, and it went into his chest, and he just absorbed the whole thing. And Arjuna was super fried. He was like, Krishna, what the hell? It's like, you said you're not going to fight. And it's one thing you intervene when I'm obviously about to get killed, but you intervene when I'm here, I'm okay, I could have taken care of that. And then Krishna had to explain, no, you couldn't have taken care of that, mate, because that weapon, only person who could have taken care of that was I gifted it. Vishnu gifted it to Narak, and it came, I'm pretty sure it's Narak, so, and it came down to Bhagadatta, and the only person who could have absorbed that was me. And then Arjuna's like, oh, okay, sorry about that. But anyway, again, we have Krishna, not necessarily keeping his word, which is why later it says, or in the Bhagavad Gita, he says to Arjuna, you have to declare it boldly that, what is it?
My devotee will never
Yeah.
perish.
Excuse me. My devotee will never perish.
Fall asleep during Bhagavatam.
Yeah, my devotee will never perish. And he says, you have to declare it, because if I declare it, then people will think, no, that man never keeps his word anyway. So, but if his devotee declares it, then the Lord will definitely make sure that that devotee's word is kept. Okay, so we really went off on a tangent.
Well,
but
you did, yeah.
Yes, you're correct. So I think the essence is, if a devotee comes to your house, knock, knock, knock. If a Avon lady comes to your house, knock, knock, knock. If the, Jehovah's Witnesses come, knock, 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 you should open your door and be like, hello, how are you? Nice to see you. Now, one might argue, okay, so what if a man with a wild dog and a gun comes to my door? Do I open that as well and let him in and feed him nicely? One could argue that you might charm them so much that they don't do anything to you. But, yeah. So it is, I guess you could say, one has to use some common sense,
Yes, discrimination.
Discrimination, yeah, discriminate. Yeah, that's a good word in the modern day, isn't it? Discriminate. Yeah. Okay.
But if the devotee comes with a wild dog, then you can't also say, no, I don't want that in my house.
Okay. Do we have time to read one more?
No, we talk too much.
Okay.
So we're going to leave it here, right?
All right, we'll stop here. The Lord has spoken through.
Just want to say welcome to a new viewer, Damodar Priya,
Oh.
who now was from the Bhakti Center, living here, serving here. She now lives in Alachua and she's teaching there. So welcome, Damodar Priya. We're very honored that you are watching, because we consider you very
exalted,
learned, sincere in all things Bhagavatam.
Great. Haribol, Damodar Priya Devi, and nice to have you with us. Thank you very much, everyone. Hare Krishna, glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.